Hi everyone, this is Andrew. Today I'll be doing my 7th JavaScript tutorial, and we'll be continuing on from last time and creating our character generator for Pathfinder, for the Pathfinder RPG. Today we'll be implementing race. Okay, so you can go ahead and download this from my last tutorial. Now just having a quick look at that, you can see that our file is getting quite big, isn't it? We're almost up to about 700 lines, I believe. So it's probably a good time to start using a more specialized tool. So what I recommend using is Visual Studio Code. You can download this if you like. It's great for, it's created by Microsoft, I believe. It's open source, so that's good. And it's much more suited for programming in JavaScript and HTML and so on. So I'll open up our file in that. Just to give you a quick look. So here it is. The good thing about this, like for example, if I didn't know what this calculate mod function does, you can just hover over it. It gives you the name of the function and the parameters, or you can hold control and it gives you a sneaky look at it. So that makes it very clear what it does, doesn't it? It returns the floor of that. And if I want to go to it, I can just go control click. And there we go. And it's got great autocomplete functionality. Just say I wanted to roll classic. I'll roll dice pool. It requires, yeah. It tells me what it needs. It needs the number of dice. Anyway, it's got great features like that. I recommend it. And also, because our file size is getting large, I recommend using version control, which keeps track of all our version changes. And the tool that I'll be using is TortoiseHg. You can try that if you like. And we'll go ahead and set up that. So go ahead and create a folder for our little project. I'll just call it Pathfinder character generator. I'll put our file in there, and I might just rename that Pathfinder character generator. Now HG will be keeping track of our entire folder. We'll set it up so it keeps track of this entire folder. So any changes within this folder, it'll take care of. Okay, there's only an HTML file, so it doesn't really matter. Now to create, so you can open up HG. You can go file, new repository, destination path, browse, current projects, Pathfinder character generator, that'll do, select folder, and hit create. Okay, and if you look at that, there we go. We don't really, you can set up this HG ignore file if you like, if you want to ignore certain things, but for this basic project we don't really need anything. Now there's our initial file from our previous tutorials. So we can click on both of them and just call this initial commit. Commit. Yes, add them all. Now from now on, that's all we have to do for setup. From now on, whenever we change something in our file, so I'll open it with code, for example. Just say make a change. I'll make a mistake, say we type in that. Now, back in Tortoise, just refresh that. See, it recognizes that we've made a change. You can use this little button here, and it shows us exactly what that change is. It says that we've changed this line to this line. And just so we don't want that, we can just right click on that and go revert. Revert local file changes. Discard changes, we don't care, that we don't want to keep that. Discard changes, it's gone. And if we reload our file, yeah, it's gone, that change. So it's a great way to keep track of everything we're doing and to not stuff everything up, which is quite common actually. Right, okay, let's get started. So we're going to go back to our generating a character from the Pathfinder RPG. Step 2 we'll be doing today, pick your race. Next, pick your character's race, noting any modifiers to your ability scores and any other racial traits. See races. We'll open that up. There are 7 basic races to choose from, although your GM might have others to add to the list. Each race lists the languages your character automatically knows, as well as a number of bonus languages. A character knows a number of additional bonus languages equal to his or her intelligence modifier. Okay, that gives us a bit of a clue what we need. So on this page there are just 7 races, for example Dwarves, and it gives you all their details there. Elves, with all their traits, gnomes, half-elves, half-orcs, halflings, humans, lots of H races, and that's it. And they've all got their different varied traits. First step though, what I'd like to do, because we'll be using lots of data in this, the races have lots of different traits and languages and weapons and all the rest of it, let's go ahead and set up what we'll be doing. So remember we're doing this style to set up an enum. Let's change that slightly. What I'd like to do is put some braces around that, and we'll give that its own, we'll call that description, DESC will do. Now we're going to be following this sort of technique throughout this tutorial. It's basically putting an object within an object. So description, and we'll have name. And the reason we're going to do that is so that we can access there we go. So we want to set up our ability into this style, and we'll be using this a lot with like languages and so on. We'll have a name and a description. That's so that we can access the name for the ability, so we don't have to hard code strength anywhere. We can just use this object, and we can get its description anytime we need to. And the way we do that would be just like, you know, ability dot strength dot name would give us the name, for example. So let's do that for each of them. Dex, con. Yeah, I'll do that. You go off and do that too. Okay, there we go. So you should have strength, dex, con, int, whiz, char, all with their own name and description. Now, how would we use that? Well, for example, down in our HTML, see that we've hard-coded strength here? For example, we haven't hard-coded score, have we? Because we have to dynamically update that. So in here, well, let's give that an ID. So ID will equal, in similar fashion to this, strength, name. And then we don't need all of that. So we can do the same thing with each of the abilities. So dexterity, dex name, constitution, con name. It's good practice not to hard code things or only hard code it in a single place, for example in our constant, so that if we need to change how intelligence is written, we can just do it at the top in one place and it will change throughout our program. So this is good practice. Wisdom, charisma. Okay, so if we run that, nothing much will happen, will it? See, our abilities aren't there, are they? So, to implement that, go up to probably where we load our page. So remember in our HTML, we've got this load page method. I just control clicked on that. load page, we set the dice and radio standard. That's just setting the base method to standard. Well, here we can set ability names. So we can just do that by document, get element by ID. Remember each of our things, strength name, and we just change that inner HTML equals, we can just use our new object, ability, strength, name. That's all we have to do. And you can, well, let's see what that does before we get carried away. Reload that. There it is, strength is being populated, isn't it? And we can do that for each of the abilities. Let's try. There we go. And that's how we use these more, I guess, complicated objects. And we'll be doing this throughout this tutorial. Great. Take a look at race. And you'll see that for ability modifiers, for example, dwarves have +2 con, +2 wisdom, -2 charisma. That pattern's fairly common. So elves have a similar sort of pattern, as do gnomes, +2 con, blah blah blah. But some races, for example the half-elf, they have +2 to 1 ability score, so it's a free choice for the player. Half-orcs are the same, +2 to 1 ability score. Halflings have their own set. And humans have a free choice too, +2 to 1 ability score. So how can we represent that? Well, one way, we could just put a new entry here, just call it bonus. And we don't really need a name and description, we're not going to be using it, so just put a description. +2 to 1 ability score at +2 bonus to 1 ability score of their choice at creation. Plus bonus to 1 ability score at creation, that'll do. Just to let us know what we're using this for. And then we can refer to that in our programming, in our code, to so that we know when to give the player a free choice for what race. Okay, now that we've done a little bit of coding, we should probably go ahead and back up our work. So if you go into TortoiseHg, you can see that it's showing us all the things that we've changed. We've changed all of that to this. Good. And we're setting the ability names, and we've updated our table, our HTML table, so that we can do this, set the names. Looking good. Race. Or we can just say update ability names, that'll do. Commit that. Okay, now let's take a look at what else we need to do for race. So each race will have a size that seems to be fairly consistent. Now there's only 2 sizes they've got here, medium or small. Not to say that there aren't more sizes, but at least for the starting races, there's only 2 sizes. So let's create a, similar to what we've done here, let's create one for size. There's dice, size, and there is only medium and small. I'll delete that line. Medium. No bonuses or penalties due to their size. Okay, we'll just copy that. Medium. description. Medium creatures have no bonuses or penalties due to their size. Good. And we'll have small. So it's pretty simple to set up this, isn't it? But it's very handy for our coding. And small, who's a small one? Elf is medium, I believe. Gnome sounds small. There we go. Gnomes are small creatures and gain... Okay, here we go. There's a whole bunch of things that it does. We're not going to implement what it does at this stage. Just a description is fine. Small creatures gain a +1 size bonus to their AC, a +1 size bonus on attack rolls, a -1 penalty to their combat maneuver bonus and combat maneuver defense, and a +4 size bonus on stealth checks. Just paste that in there, we'll deal with that later. Right, now what else do races have? They have a size, they have a speed. Now, as far as I can tell, there's only 3 types of speed. There's slow speed, which is 20 feet. Half-elves, for example, have normal speed. Half-elves have a base of 30. And then dwarves, they have a kind of a special thing. They've got slow and steady. They have a base speed of 20, which is considered slow, but their speed is never modified by armor and encumbrance. So, create a new constant called speed. Normal was one, wasn't it? Normal. Normal. I'll get slow and steady while I'm here. So we'll have slow. I'll put slow and steady here because I've got something on my clipboard. How about we just keep it very concise. 20 feet. 20 feet. Speed. Because I don't know if there's other races that might have this in the future or whatever, so we'll just keep it very broad at this point. So, name. Slow and steady. 20. Description is 20 feet. Speed is never modified by armor or encumbrance. Good. And we'll have slow as well. Just grab those descriptions. Elves have normal speed. Just 30 feet is all we really need to know there. 30 feet. Slow, I believe, is just 20 feet. Slow is, yes, 20 feet. Good thing about doing it this way, we can, if ever there's another speed we need to add, we just add it, and done. So we should have 3 normal, 30 feet, slow, 20 feet, and slow and steady. 20 feet, speed is never modified by armor or encumbrance. Might just change it a bit, make that a bit more concise. Never modified by armor or encumbrance. Good. Right, now what else do we need to include? Now you'll see after that, they're the only ones that are consistent. Then there's a whole bunch of racial traits. So low light vision, defense trait, which is dependent on the actual race. So we'll probably have to make a... we'll do that last, I believe, because it looks the most complicated. For example, elves have... Well, there's a couple of double ups, so low light vision, a few of them seem to have, but they've got their own sort of thing here. How about we do languages? Because all of them have languages of some type. Now they have... So let's create a language. Language object. Now, languages can be found under the linguistic skill. I just did a bit of searching to find that. And if you go down, here's a whole bunch of them here. So what we need to do is exactly what we've been doing, except we want to put that as the name, and we'll put this as the description. Okay, so I'll give you one example. Abyssal. Demons and other chaotic outsiders. So you can go ahead and do all that, copying and pasting. I won't show that on the video. I'll see you soon. Okay, there we go. So you should have about, I think it's 20 languages. So Abyssal, Aklo, Aquan, all the way down to Undercommon. One thing I noticed was that in the races, if you look at the language section, it says Dwarves begin play speaking Common and Dwarven. Okay, so they've each got starting languages, and Dwarves with high intelligence scores can choose from the following: Giant, Gnome, Goblin, Orc, Terran, and Undercommon. So I think in this object we should probably put the title of the section. Now I believe there'd be two titles there to make it easy for us. So there'd be languages and bonus languages, or starting languages or whatever. So how about we go title, just give it a string. So we'll say languages. So this will literally represent this string here. So when we display it to screen, we have something to write here. So the title will be languages, and we'll have a title for bonus languages, I think, because we'll need to allow them to select their languages. So just throw that in there. Good. Next section. Now this weapon, I was thinking about this, weapon familiarity. So weapon, for example, Dwarves are proficient with battle axes, heavy picks, warhammers, and treat any weapon with the word Dwarven in its name as martial weapons. So we'll have to make a weapon, well, it's probably ideal to make a weapon constant, an object, weapon, weapon. Okay, inside, let's open up weapons. Now, I found weapons under ultimate equipment. I'll keep races open. Actually have updated names. Essentially it's the same list plus a few extras, but they've updated the names to be a bit more consistent. So I think we'll be using this list for getting our weapon names. There we go. So, for example, Dwarves require battle axes, heavy picks, and warhammers. Battle axes, battle axe. Now, I'm not going to put all their statistics in at this stage, so we'll to do weapon statistics. Statistics. So we'll just stick to our previous method of doing name and description. Battle axe. There we go. See, they've got all the cost and damage modifiers and weight and so on. We'll put that in later, not now. So just grab a description. A name and a description. So battle axe. Didn't work. Actually, we don't need description in character generation, I don't think. I don't think anybody needs to know what a battle axe is. I think it's self-evident. So let's just stick to name for this, at least for this stage. So you go ahead and look at your races. So look at the races, and every mention of, we're not going to do the entire list, that'd be far too many. Just, not at this stage anyway. So just look at weapon familiarity for each of the races. Look at each of their weapons and list them in our object here. Okay, I'll go off and do that. And I'll see you soon. Okay, you should have battle axe, composite longbow, composite shortbow, dwarven ergrosh, dwarven war axe, elven curve blade, falchion, gnome, hooked hammer, great axe, halfling sling staff, heavy pick, longbow, longsword, orc double axe, rapier, short bow, sling, and warhammer. Now, because in here we've got weapon familiarity, so dwarves are proficient with this, this, and this, and treat any weapon with the word dwarven in its name as a martial weapon. To me, that sounds like two categories. So there'll be weapon familiarity and martial weapons, and that seems to be fairly consistent among the races. So elves, anything with elven in its name is a martial weapon. So let's create a title, similar as we did in languages. We created a title, right? Oops, I should have called that something different. Title bonus. Good that I saw that. So just the normal title for languages is languages, and the title bonus is bonus languages. So similar to that, go down to your weapons and put in a title for familiar, like the weapon familiarity. Weapon familiarity, so this will just be our headings effectively. And title for martial, because each one seems to have, or many of them have, a martial weapon list as well. We can just call it martial weapons. That'll do. Right, so we've done ability, we've done speed, size and speed, and we've done weapons and languages. Now all we need to do are these, I guess we call them traits. Well, here we go, racial traits. So low light vision and elven immunities and so on. So start from the start. What can we call the, I guess racial trait would be the best word, seeing that there's probably other types of traits in the game. So racial trait. In the same vein as this, we'll just have a name and a description. So let's just do one. Dark vision, say. Now dark vision I've noticed is used by a couple of the races. Dark vision. So we may as well make it as generic as possible. So we won't have dwarves in there, for example. Just say can see in the dark up to 60 feet. That sounds good. Dark vision. Good. Now go ahead and look at each of these. So just treat that as a name and treat that as a description, and copy each one for each of the races. I'll go off and do that, and we'll compare notes at the end. Righto, I've got adaptability, receive skill focus as a bonus feat at first level. Bonus feat, select 1 extra feet at first level. Dark vision, see in the dark up to 60 feet. Defensive training, +4 dodge bonus to AC against monsters of the giant subtype. Now, I've gone ahead and edited the description slightly to make it more generic so that any race can use this, which I think is fine, because a couple of races had defensive training, for example, but they did exactly the same thing. Elf blood, well, obviously that would probably, actually half elves and elves use elf blood. So elf blood count as both elf and human for any effects related to race. Or maybe it was only half elves, I don't know. Elven immunities, immune to magic, sleep effects. Oh, this is the one that half elves and elves had. Immune to magic, sleep effects, +2 racial saving throw bonus against enchantment spells and effects. Elven magic, +2 racial bonus on caster level. Fearless, gnome magic, greed, halfling luck, hardy. Now, there was 2 hatreds and they were slightly different. So the one that dwarves had, they had hatred. I just called hatred dwarf. And they got +1 bonus on attack rolls against humanoid creatures of the orc and goblinoid subtypes. And then gnomes, they had a separate type of hatred. Very related, but a bit different. +1 bonus on attack rolls against humanoid creatures of the reptilian and goblinoid subtypes. So I had to divide that up. That's the only way, I think. Illusion resistance, keen senses. That was a very common one for many of the races. Low light vision was quite common. Multi-talented, choose 2 favoured classes at first level. Yeah. Obsessive, orc blood, orc ferocity, skilled, stability, stone cunning, and sure-footed. And that's the complete list. Great. Now that we've created our racial traits and weapons and sizes and so on, and speed. So just to stick to my initial plan to keep all this in alphabetical order, I'll just move that. Size, speed, weapons. Because we've declared all of them, we should put our race object as our last object, because it'll need to use all those constants that have been declared before it. If you don't do that, you might get some error, I think. So, this is going to be our most complicated object to date. Dwarf. Now within Dwarf we're going to have a name, aren't we? We're going to have a description. Where are we? Dwarves. Probably just the first sentence here will be enough. I mean, in theory you could put that entire description there, but we're looking to display something on the screen during character generation, so it's probably a bit too much. Probably just that's enough. Dwarves are a stoic but stern race, ensconced in cities carved from the hearts of mountains and fiercely determined to repel the depredations of savage races like orcs and goblins. Sounds good. Now, we'll go in order here. So that's the description. The next one's abilities. So abilities. I think this will be this probably be an object for itself, which will also have its name, because this is what we'll be displaying to the user. So the name, I assume, will be anything before. So just as this is a name and this is a name, this will be a name too. So each race is different, well, mostly. So we'll grab that as the name of the ability. We'll have a description, which will just be that. But also a bit gruff. And how do we handle this from a... Like, we have to apply this, don't we? We have to apply this +2 Constitution, +2 Wisdom. Well, one way we could do it, we could just have, say, high, which will be anything that gives a plus. And then we'll have, say, low. So high is Constitution, so we want to use our object here, or our enum, whatever you want to call it, con. How about we put these in a array? That's probably a good way to handle this. Ability con and ability... What was the other one? Wisdom. Right. And their low one will be ability charisma. I think that'll do for our abilities. So we just need the name, the description, so that's the stuff that will be displayed on screen, and then our mechanics. And we can handle that all later. But by setting it up like that, setting it up like this, it allows us to handle it in an efficient way. Good. Now, what's next on our list? There's abilities, size, probably just a name and a description. Oh, hang on. No, that's already been taken care of, hasn't it? We just use our size, their medium. There we go, we've created an object for that, haven't we? Size, their medium. Speed, they're slow and steady. Speed, we can just use our object, slow and steady. So all that effort we put in before is actually worthwhile. It makes this a lot easier. Size, speed, and then their list of abilities. Okay, so because they're all part of that racial trait object that we created, we can just create an array of them. So dark vision, defensive training, greed. Traits, dark vision, so an array, racial trait, dark vision, I forgot already, defensive training, greed, just copy that, defensive training, greed, hatred, so this will be hatred dwarves, remember? So hatred, hardy, stability. Hatred, hardy, stability. Hatred dwarf. Hardy. Stability. Stone cunning and stone cunning. Stone cunning. That's our list. Size, speed, traits. Now we need weapons. Remember we broke weapons up into familiar weapons and martial weapons. So weapons, familiar. Again, this will be an array, and weapons, martial. And you can name these however you title these however you like. You could abbreviate them if you like. Familiar weapons, they have battle axes, heavy picks, and warhammers. Battle axe, heavy pick, and warhammer. So weapon, battle axe, weapon, heavy pick, weapon, warhammer. Great. And their martial weapons are anything, treat any weapon with the word dwarven in its name. So you know that new weapon list I was referring to from the Ultimate Equipment? It actually puts those racial names at the start of the weapon, so it makes it very easy to look for them. Before that it was kind of comma, you know, for example, Urgrosh, comma, Dwarven, which was a bit tricky to find. Okay, so there's only two of them. So there's Dwarven Urgrosh and Dwarven War Axe. They sound like nasty weapons. So that's weapons taken care of. Now languages. Remember we said there's starting languages, so they start play with that. And they also have these bonus languages if they've got a high intelligence score. So how about we go just had a thought, we could probably put this, just as we've done here, we've got abilities with their own names, descriptions, high and low. We could do this because weapons has two types. We could do that. We'll have weapons. familiar. And martial. Just makes it a bit clearer. And then we can have languages in a similar way. Languages. That's a good thing about using, say, Visual Studio Code, is that when we make an error, it immediately tells us. So it says, comma, expected. There we go. Languages, and we'll have starting and bonus. Good. So for example, for Dwarf, we've got starting of common and Dwarven. Language order is not important here, because it just isn't. But if we want to display it in the same way as what we have here, then it's good to list them in the order that they've provided in the book. Language common. Language Dwarven. Great. And the bonus languages are Giant, Gnome, Goblin. Giant, Gnome, Goblin. Giant, Gnome, not Knoll. Gnome, Goblin. And Orc, Terran, and Undercommon. Orc, Terran, Orc, Terran, and Undercommon. And I believe that is it for dwarves. So that is what our race, I guess, our race object is going to look like. So we can go ahead and copy that for each of the other races and then fill in the relevant details. I'll go off and do that by myself, as can you, and we can compare afterwards. Okay, righto. So for elf, done all that. They've got a ton of familiar weapons: longbows, composite longbows, longsword, rapier, short bow, composite short bow, but only an elven curved blade as their martial. Gnomes. Can you see that when they don't have a list, for example, gnomes don't have any familiar weapons, so I just put a blank array. You can just do that like that. And they had one martial, a gnome hooked hammer. Oh yes, one thing I need to mention. See, for half-elf, who can have a free choice of which ability to increase, just put a single ability dot, no, that's not right, bonus. Make sure I've got that correct. Gnomes, they've got that. Elves have that. Yeah, there's only a couple of races that have a free choice, or maybe 3. Yeah. So half-elves have an ability dot bonus. They have no familiar or martial weapons, but they've got a huge list of bonus languages, because I think it says they can choose anything. So I put everything except Common Elven, and they said that you're not allowed to choose Druidic. So Druidic is not in that list. I think because it's a secret language or something. Half-orc, they also have a bonus. So whenever we encounter this ability dot bonus, we can do that, something special. We can display a user selection on the screen. Good. They've got their list of weapons. Halfling, they've got their own set of stats, of abilities. Human also has this ability bonus. Bonus, why is that all lowercase? So humans, they have a bonus feat and are skilled in their traits, no familiarity or martial weapons, and similar to the half-elf, they've got a whole bunch of bonus languages, any language other than Druidic. Good. Probably now is a good time to commit our changes. So we've added language, racial traits, racial trait, racial traits, yep, size, added constants for language, racial traits, size, speed, weapons, and race. We did quite a lot. Added basically all the information that we'll need for each race. Quite a lot of effort in just doing that, actually. Commit that, and we'll get started with the next part. Okay, go to our generator. Now, what do we want to see? So we'll roll our ability scores. Now down here, what if we just see a group of radio buttons similar to this with each of the races? So that's easy enough. Head down to our HTML. So in a similar way that we're selecting our dice pool method, we'll also have a description at the bottom. Do that for race. So where we've got choose your race, we'll get rid of that first one for the time being. We don't need any of these really. So the type is radio, the name is race. On click, how about we go ahead and we'll create a method called setRace, and we'll have race.dwarf. Yeah, now instead of having a hard-coded value here, as we did with abilities, we'll just put a span with an ID. Span ID will equal, well, we can just call it dwarf name. Dwarf name. We can't do that, that's right. We should, oops. Do it like that. I think that should be okay. So we've got an input, radio, race, it calls a method, passes the race that it's calling, and has an ID for the name, the visual output. So we can go ahead, copy that for each of the races. So there's 7, isn't there? So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And update each of these. So this will be elf, gnome, half-elf, halfling, half-orc, human. You can put these in the same order as the book if you want to. I'm just putting them in alphabetical order. I think they've got them in a slightly different order. Update the IDs. Human, half-orc, half-ling, half, lots of races start with half, half-elf, gnome, and elf. Good. And we'll call this race description. Now we need to set these names, don't we? If we don't do that, let's see what happens. Yeah, we get blank. They're still doing something, but we can't see, the user can't see what they are. So back up in our load page, is it? Yep, that'll do. Same way that we've set ability names, let's do the same for race. Set race names dwarf name, dwarf elf name. What's the other ones? I'll have to do this over here first, I think. Race name. No. Race dwarf. That's it. Dot name. That's what we're looking to do. Might just delete all them. Dwarf name elf. Yeah. Not what I wanted. Elf. Gnome. Half elf. Halfling. I'm just pushing control space to get this autocomplete thing happening. So I'm just going control space here to be able to select from list. Elf, gnome, half elf, halfling, half orc, human. Okay, let's see if that works. There we go. So we can select between each of these. Now we probably want to set a default, don't we? And we also want to set our description. Just as we've got a description here, we'll set our little 1-line or 2-line description underneath. Okay, we'll have to set up that method called setRace, because that's what we're calling. So there's setDice, setPurchase, setRace, and it takes a race as a parameter. Now, we should probably make a global variable race. This dot race. Keep track of our race. I'm sure we'll need it later. Then under set race, we'll set the race. We'll also update the description because we're passing the race here, aren't we? So we can go document, get element by ID. Now race description, I believe I called it. It's just the paragraph below. Again, you could type, for example, that, hit autocomplete, look race description. Dot inner HTML equals, will be our race dot description. I think that should be it. Our race is description. So, for example, if an elf came through here, it'd be just elf description. Anything else we want to do there? Let's try that out. Okay. It's working when we click it, because that's when we call that method, but we're not setting the default, so we should do that. If you saw what happened, I hit roll. It's selecting, okay, for example, if I select Half-orc now, reset, roll, Half-orc's still selected, but it's not actually in code calling that method. So we want to tidy that up. Set default. Now, after reading through the races, it looks like humans are the dominant race. They even state that. Are currently the dominant race in the world. So I presume it's the most common, not necessarily the most common character, but we'll just set that as the default. Set default to human. How can we do that? So we won't do that in here. We won't do that in here. We'll do that elsewhere. Now remember, we've got to show, where is that form? Where do we show race? Show the race form. Okay, how about we go ahead and make a method called, instead of hard coding this everywhere, we'll make a method called show race. Okie set race function show race, and we'll give that a flag visible, so you can turn it on and turn it off. Show the race form, we'll grab that. So it's going to be either inline or none. We'll grab that. Race form, yeah. Right. So first of all, get element by ID, race form, style display. Now we can just put make a condition here. If it's visible, it'll be inline, else it'll be none. Great. And race form, I'll just do a search for that, make sure we get all the instances of it. So that'll be show race true, show race true, and hide the race form. Show race false, hide other forms. Well, that'll be show race false, won't it? Oop. Anywhere else? Show the race form, yep. So I'm just going through where we've used it before. We probably could have preempted that. Anyway, show the race form, that's inline, so that'll be true. Anywhere else? Just our HTML form, which is good, and our show race. Great. And set the default. Set the default race to human. Now we only want to do that if it's visible, don't we? It's no use doing it when it's invisible. So if visible, set race. Now it takes a race as a. Remember, we can hover over that or hold control. So we'll it takes a race dot human. Set race as human, and we also need to set the we should probably go ahead and create an ID for, so just as we've done for standard, remember standard was our default dice method? Well, we'll put that, give our ID to human, to our human radio button. So there's human down here. ID equals radio human. Radio human. Okay, so document get element by ID radio human. So that'll be a radio button, right? We want to set it's checked to be equal to true. So we'll set the race programmatically, and we'll set the UI radio button to be checked. Hopefully that will work. Role, there we go. Humans possess exceptional drive and a great capacity to endure and expand, and as such are currently the dominant race in the world. Just say we select something else such as Gnome, and we reset this. It should forget that we've selected Gnome, and there we go, human. Oh, as a note, I just remembered, when I was writing the description for half-elf, it talked a lot about elves and little about half-elves, so I kind of made up my own, I made a summary of that paragraph. So I said, human, elven trysts commonly lead to the birth of half-elves, a race descended of two cultures, yet inheritor of neither, or neither. So yeah, I just kind of summarised what they had there. They didn't get to the point, I found. Trysts, they like their poetic language, don't they? And there we go. That might be a good point to back up our changes again. So we've got a race variable, we've modified all those race form displays to our new method show race. Set the race names, show race, show race. Set the race. There's our show race method, setting human as default. And we've added the radio buttons and the race description. Awesome. Race description. Race, radio, buttons, and description. Good. Next, what do we need to do? Well, after this we want to display all our racial traits, don't we? So if you see here, we've got abilities, size, speed, traits, and so on. So how can we deal with that? We'd like to display it in a fairly similar way to this. Okay, so let's begin with our abilities. Down in the HTML section, let's go ahead and make another paragraph. And we'll just call this race traits. That'll do. EM, we don't need EM. Okay, so we'll just call that race traits, and we can put some HTML into that from JavaScript. Right, so in our set race, okay, so we're outputting our description there. Now how about we build a trait string. So we'll build it up one incrementally and then finally output it. So just go ahead and create a variable, call it what you like, trait string, that'll do. We'll set it to be an empty string at this point. Abilities. So at this point we're not going to we're not going to actually modify the ability scores. Let's just output everything first. Okay, so what do we need to do? Well, we need to build on our string. So trait string equals trait string, or you can just go trait string plus equals. So that'll just add to our string. Race dot abilities dot name, isn't it? Name. We'll probably want to put this in a bold face or a strong face. So we'll go strong. Remember, this is going to be put into the HTML. Strong, and then we'll have the name. So I'll show you what, in similar fashion to this, see how these are all bold? Then there's a colon, and then there's the description. That's what we're trying to mimic. So strong plus the name plus close the strong plus the semicolon plus a space plus the race, abilities, description. Race, abilities, description. I think that's all we need to do. Now let's go ahead and output the trait string. So document get element by ID, race traits dot inner HTML equals trait string. Let's test that. Good. That's looking, so down here we can see +2 to 1 ability score for humans. Same with half-orcs, halflings. There you go, that's looking good. So it's looking very similar to this up here, this first line. So, but remember, this is just a string. There's no, this isn't going to do anything until we program it to, which we'll get to. First of all, let's go through all of these things. So we have size followed by speed. Let's do that in one line, size and speed. It'll be similar to this, won't it? Oops. So, race, abilities, name, size, dot name, size, dot description. So you can see it's handy that we've designed it so that there's a name and a description for each thing. Makes it easy to program. Okay, plus we're going to do that again for speed. Let's see what that looks like. I see we need a break between each of the, see, mediums here, normals here. Let's increase the size a little bit. Okie dokie, so after each we need a break, just a BR tag. Yeah, break, and where else do we need a break? Here, we can just put a break here. Good. Yep, so if you look at, say, Dwarf and Gnome, a Dwarf has slow and steady, 20 feet, never modified by armor encumbrance. Gnome has slow, 20 feet. Same speed, but hasn't got the steady part of it. Looking good so far. Next are all the traits, the thing that we've labelled racial traits. And we remember we put them as an array. If you remember back up here, traits is just an array of racial traits. So we can do that. Set race, loop through racial traits. Okay, so remember our for loop structure. I think it's this in JavaScript: for variable I equals 0. I is less than race dot racial traits, is it? Traits dot length I plus plus to increment I. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to do something similar to this, don't we? So trait string plus equals the traits. Now remembering this is an array, so we have to use square brackets with the index. In this case it'll be I, so we'll start at 0, go through until it ends. Traits I dot name, traits I dot description with a break in between each one. Let's test that. Looking good. So humans have bonus feats and are skilled. Half-orcs have all of that. Let's see Dwarf, because that's what we're looking at on the race page here. So they have dark vision, defensive training, greed, hatred, hardy, stability, stone cunning. Dark vision, defensive training, greed, hatred, hardy, stability, stone cunning. Good. That was pretty simple. Next on our list, weapon familiarity. Now remember, they've got a title here, and then they've listed, for example, they said dwarves are proficient with battle axes, heavy picks, and warhammers. How about we just list this? We just list the name of each of the objects, the weapons, and maybe we can do some special things like adding an "and" in there. And remember that we put martial weapons we put as a separate thing. So we might output this and martial weapons as a separate thing, which I think is fine. I'll just copy that loop through weapon familiar weapons, is it? Familiar weapons. Now remember we broke that up into two separate types of weapons. Weapons familiar I'll just go up and have a look at that. Yeah, so we've got weapons.familiar and weapons.martial. And each of those were kept within an array, weren't they? So we've got an array of familiar weapons and an array of martial weapons. Remembering it could be empty, but that's okay. Oh, not necessarily there. Here's one. We'll test that though. Maybe we should not output. Let's see what they do on the Pathfinder. For example, half-elves have no weapon. Yeah, see they skip it? Because they don't have any weapon familiarity. They just don't display it. So we'll do the same thing. set race loop through familiar weapons. Okay. Don't display if empty. So let's grab the, maybe we'll grab this, make it a variable, so number of familiar weapons, whatever you want to call it, equals race weapons familiar dot length. Great. Now if number of familiar weapons is greater than 0, then we can do this. Now we need to output a single heading or title or whatever. Strong. Now we'll call this weapons familiar. Here, weapons familiar dot name. They should have a name, shouldn't they? Let me just double check. Maybe I've got a special title for that. I kind of forget. Racial traits. Weapon. Here we go. So I've, under weapon, we've got title familiar and title martial. That's fine. So only if there's more than 0 weapons, we will output the title weapon title familiar. And there's no name component to that, it's just, we've just put it as a string, so that's fine. Okie dokie. So space. Now, looping through each of the weapons. So each of the weapons in the familiar. So we can, instead of writing this here, we can put the number of familiar weapons. We don't want to output any strong, do we? We just want to list the weapons here without a break. So we'll go race dot weapon weapons dot familiar. Now it's an array, so we'll put I. Now each of those weapons have a name. That's all we'll need here, I think. A name followed by, well, a comma, right? We want to kind of lay it out similar to what they've done here. Half-orc. Weapon familiarity, half-orc's pretty much. So we want to lay out great axes, falchions. Well, that's a poor example. Let's choose one like elf, gnome, elf. For example, they got longbows, comma, longswords, comma, rapiers, and then at the end they've got and short bows. And then they go on. Yeah, so we'll try to do it that style. So we'll go comma. There's always going to be a comma. Space. Plus the next weapon. Oh, there won't always be a comma, will there? There'll only be a comma up until the second last one. So let's put a condition. I is less than number of familiar weapons. Is that right? Yep. I is less than number of familiar weapons minus 1. So that's the second last one, right? if that is true, display a comma. Else, what are we going to display? So this, if it's the last one, we want to put a break, is that right? Let's try it. I've got an error. Retry that. Okay, I'm missing some I like the error. Missing parenthesis in parenthetical. Okay. It's 968 anyway. It told me I was missing that. Humans. Oh yeah, that's a bad example. Let's choose one like elf. Typeface. Race weapon is undefined. Oh, okay. Oh yes, this is a bit. Race weapons, that's fine. Ah, here. That comes under the weapon. Weapon title familiar. That should be it. Elf. Weapon familiarity. Longbow, composite longbow, longsword, rapier, shortsword, composite shortbow. Okay. Well, we'll want to put a full stop at the end, won't we? That's one thing. And at the second last one, so anything less than the second last one will be a comma. Sorry, anything less than the last one will be a comma. And we'll put an and in here. Now, if it equals the second last one, if I equals that minus 1, then we'll put an and. Maybe. I'll have to try this. I'm not great with working this out in my head. Elf. That doesn't look right, does it? The end is coming at the end. That's not what we want. Equals minus 2. Okay, so if I is less than the last one, we put a comma, yeah. And if I equals, we put an and. And if it doesn't equal that, we put nothing. Elf. That looks okay. Weapon familiarity. Longbow, composite longbow. Longsword, rapier, shortbow, and composite shortbow. Great, let's test the other ones. Dwarf, battle axe, heavy pick, and warhammer. I believe that's what we... So elves have all these longbows, composite longbows, longswords, rapiers, and shortbows, and composite shortbow. Yeah. Dwarves are proficient with battle axes, heavy picks, and warhammers. Yeah. Gnome. Gnomes don't have any. I suppose that's true. Elves, gnomes. I thought they did. I see. They don't specifically have familiarity. They've got a martial weapon, so that's why we didn't include that. That's fine. I think otherwise it's looking fine. Try all the races while we're here. Yep, they don't have any, I knew that. Halflings, they have a sling as a familiar weapon. Half-orc, great axe and falchion. Probably don't need that comma, but I'm not going to program that. That looks fine. Good. Righto, now we're going to loop through the familiar ones. How about we do the same thing for martial weapons? Number of mart weapons. And this will be race weapons martial.length. So if that's greater than 0, we want to show something, don't we? Weapon title martial. Number of mart weapons, martial weapons. Change that to martial. The name, yes, the name is what we're going to display. Probably the same layout would be fine, I think, just as long as we update all these. Let's give that a go. Now, what has a martial weapon? Humans, I believe, don't. Half-orcs do. Great axe and falchion. Orc double, so martial weapons. Orc double axe, great. Halflings, I know, do. Halfling sling staff. Half-elves don't. No. Gnomes do. They have a gnome hooked hammer. Elves do, I remember. They have an elven curved blade. I think dwarves have 2, don't they? Good. So, got battle axe, heavy pick, and warhammer. Martial weapons: dwarven grosh and dwarven war axe. Of course, in the names, like the names inside our constants, you could give these capitals if you wanted to, however you wish to. Although, I was just following what they have here. For example, where is an example? Gnomes, that'll do. No, that won't. Elves, yeah, they used lowercase here, so it doesn't really matter. However you wish. Good. Is there anything else? Languages. So let's have a look at their language list. It's probably in a very similar way. Languages. Remember, we're going to have starting languages because we've differentiated that, and then in here they tell you the bonus languages, but you can only choose one if you have a positive intelligence modifier. So I would suggest that we don't show bonus languages unless they have them. So let's just let's loop through our normal starting languages. It'll have to be a loop because they start with varying amounts. Loop through. They all have starting languages, so we're not going to do any testing here. Starting languages. Okay, so we don't need that, do we? So we'll have a number of starting languages will equal race languages start, I believe I called it. Yep. We don't want to do this test because they've all got a starting language, I assume. Yep. So it'll be language title, I believe. We've got bonus here. Oh, yep. And then we'll do a similar thing as we did for weapons, loop through them, except that we'll be getting the race, languages, start, the array of them, name, and let's keep all our handiwork from before. Looks okay, let's try. There we go. I know humans only speak common, so their language is common. Half-orc, common and orc. Halfling, common and halfling. Half-elf. One of them did have 3, I remember. Common and elven. I think it was gnome. Languages common, gnome and sylvan. Great. Elf should be elven and common. Or common and elven. And dwarf, common and dwarven. Great, that was easy. So, the final touches to our little racial thing here which I don't think is going to be trivial, is to, in the case of, for example, a half-elf, which +2 to 1 ability score, we have to pop up something here. Maybe we'll pop up a radio button here to select one stat that they can put to +2. And for each of the races, we're going to have bonus languages, but we'll only show it if their intelligence modifier is greater than 0. Which could cause some problems, I suspect, because, for example, a half-elf, just say I rolled, here we go, I had intelligence 11, so currently no bonus languages. But if I have a half-elf who could select intelligence as a +2, which they could do, that means their intelligence would raise to a +1. So it'd go to 13 and get a +1 here, meaning that we'd have to dynamically display bonus languages in that situation. Okie dokie. I'm going to have a rest and we'll come back to this. Okay, so we want to output in the case of this bonus ability score, we're going to output some radio buttons. Handle, so inside our set race method, handle ability score bonuses. Remembering that we put bonuses and penalties in separate, here we go. I've called it high and low. So for each of the races, they've got a high attribute, which gives +2 to these, and a low attribute, which subtracts 2 from these. And they're in, they are in arrays. And occasionally we have, for example, for half-elf, they have simply a single bonus, but it's to anything they choose. So we'll have to deal with that. Set race. Handle ability score bonuses. So 4. We'll do a for loop. For there var I equals 0. I is less than the race abilities high. Yeah, dot length. I plus plus. Remembering they could be bonus ones, so let's test for that. If handle bonus, what do we call it? Handle bonus or something like that. If race dot abilities high and the ith number, so that's where we currently are, if that equals ability that's the one we're after. If that equals ability bonus, remembering there's bonus in each of them, so if it equals the bonus one, Then, what do we wish to do? Well, we need to output some radio buttons, don't we? So we can add that to our trait string. I'm just putting this just because I think it might look good if it's just underneath this description here. So inside, just under this paragraph here, I think we could throw the... I mean, you could put it after this one, but then it'll break up sort of the body of this. So I'd recommend putting it just above that. So trait string plus equals what? Input. Input. Type equals... Now normally we use quotes here, don't we? So we have to escape them because they're within these outer quotes. So we have to escape the quotes. The type is radio. The name equals what, ability bonus. This is some way to link the radio buttons together. It's not too important. Whatever you wish to call it. And on click, right? We want it to do something when they click it. We'll just create a name. So say click bonus ability. Click bonus ability. I'll just rename that to suit our convention here. Bonus ability. Click bonus ability. Oh, it'll be a JavaScript, won't it? So put in that JavaScript colon, click bonus ability, and within that we'll have to put the name of the ability, won't we? Ability strength. So that's our input. And we also need a name next to it, don't we? A name such as that's not a good example. Something like, in our race we've got them here. This here. Well, we know what it is, so we can just populate it immediately, can't we? Race, ability, so we want strength next to it. We want the strength name, don't we? So we can just go, oh, so that's the on click. We need to close that. And then we can have a plus ability strength name. Let's test to see if that works. Just for strength at least. Okie dokie, it is there. We just need a break at the end of it. Handle bonus. Let's put a break at the end. That should be okay. There it is. Maybe putting in a paragraph work. Let's try. Yep, that looks okay. So knowing that that works, we can do that for each of the abilities. I'll go ahead and do that now. I won't bore you with the details. Rightio, there we go. Next, what happens when it's not this ability.bonus? So otherwise, what do we want to do? So if it's ability.strength, for example, what do we want to do? Well, we want to apply that bonus, don't we, to the stats. So otherwise, apply the bonus. Otherwise, apply the listed bonus. So for example, for a gnome or a dwarf or whatever, they get plus to constitution, say. We want to apply that bonus, don't we? Apply the listed bonus. Handle bonus. I don't like saying handle bonus here. How about we call it allow the user to select an ability bonus. That's probably better. Otherwise, apply the listed bonus. Yes, that's correct. So else, let's make a function for this. So set racial ability. Set racial ability. And what would that take as a parameter? It would take the ability, wouldn't it? So it would be this thing. And we probably need to know whether it's a positive or a negative so that our function can handle it. So how about, as we're using the terms high and low, how about we put a true here to represent it's a high, it's a positive. Let's go and make this method set racial ability. Oh, let's run this first. Okay. Yep. So humans get to see everything. Half-orcs get to choose one as well. Won't work, of course. Halflings. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, I see. Because we're I'll just comment that out temporarily. Run that again. So humans, yep, half-orcs get to choose an ability. Halflings, yes, it disappears there because halflings don't get to choose theirs. They've got a predefined list. Half-elves do. Gnomes don't, as do elves and dwarves. Great. So instead we want to apply these, don't we? We want to apply these to our set of stats up here. Now, how do we want to apply it? What do we want it to look like? Well, my thinking is that when you get a positive, so they get +2 constitution, this goes up and this goes up, of course. But how about we highlight the fact? How about we change the color, say to blue? And for a penalty, say -2 charisma, we'll reduce that, and we'll change the color to say red. And of course this will update, won't it? So overall they'll get a +2 change here. I think overall everybody will get a +2 change. Yep. To keep it all fair. Knowing that, let's go ahead and try to set this racial ability. Remember, we'll take 2 arguments there. Set racial ability. Function set racial ability. It'll take an ability and whether it's high or not. High. I mentioned colors, didn't I? So how about, let's go ahead and set colors here. So variable color will equal, well, it depends on whether it's high or not, doesn't it? If it's high, it'll be, we shouldn't hard code colors, we should put them as constants, because at some stage maybe we want to come back and change the color scheme or whatever, or have a separate set of color schemes. We'll go ahead and create a constant. Here we go. Constant color. We should have color because that's our default color. So if we don't put a color in, for example, CSS or HTML, it'll just use the default color anyway. So that can be our default color. We'll have color high, meaning it's a positive increase, and we want that to be equal to, say, blue. You can go look up HTML colors. There's a whole bunch of them. There's probably about 100 or 200 or something. You can have like steel, grey, blue, and forest green, and all the rest of it. We'll just go default blue, I think. Standard blue. And for low, we'll have red. So if it's a decrease, we'll have red. Back to our set racial ability. So color high. If it's high, color high, else color low. Alright, what else? The colors set, probably have to switch for the ability. Switch the ability, case ability dot strength. What do we want to do? So that means if there's an ability bonus coming in to this function, well, we should probably go ahead and make some variables to keep in memory the bonuses, because for example, just say I hit intelligence as my bonus. That's fine. But then I went to say, oh, hang on, I don't want intelligence as a bonus, I want constitution as a bonus. Because, you know, users can freely select between these radio buttons. That means we'd have to remember that we've put a +2 into intelligence. Take that off and then add a +2 to constitution. So how about we keep a variable for each of the statistics that just keeps track of the racial modifier. So up in our variables, let's similar to what we've got here, strength pool, strength purchase. Let's have one for each of the racial ones. So that'll so it'll obviously be 0, but it could be +2, it could be -2. So we'll do that. We'll have strength racial, one for each of the abilities. Good-o. And within our new method, set racial ability, that's one, isn't it? With our new method, we want to set that, don't we? So strength racial will equal what? Well, it depends on whether it's high or low, doesn't it? So if it's high, that means it'll be +2. We shouldn't hardcode this. We'll make up racial mod or something. Racial bonus. Racial mod. It'll equal the racial mod. Else, if it's low, it'll equal the negative racial mod, won't it? Let's go set that. Racial mod. It's always 2, isn't it? I haven't seen it any other number, so I assume it's a constant. Racial mod equals 2. We'll keep it in the positive. Right, so it'll either be a racial mod, positive, or -2. Strength racial, yeah, that should be fine. Now what do we want to do? We want to actually apply it to our strength, don't we? So strength will plus equal the strength racial. We want to set the color, don't we? So how about we go ahead and do that? The get element by ID. what's the element that we're after? So this we want to change. So that's the score, and the modifier we want to change. So strength score, I believe it is. Yep, that's it. Now, how do we change color? Style. No. Is there a text color or something? Or just color? Color. That should be work. That should work, I think. Strength score style color will equal color, which we've already decided up here, depending on whether it's high or low. How about we also, up here, make a racial mod. Racial mod will equal, and I'll just copy and paste that, save us doing that every time. Alright, and strength racial will equal the racial mod. Strength plus equals the racial mod for the strength. And we're going to get the color for that. Set the color for that. Set the color for the strength mod as well. Good. And we want to do that for each of, well, we better test this. So before I get too carried away. So who has +2 strength? I'll just see what we're doing up here first. Race ability is high. Okay, so we're only setting it for bonuses at the moment. We haven't done this same thing for negative. Click bonus ability. Okay. Yeah, to test this I'll need to have something with a positive. Oh, this a halfling has negative to strength, so let's implement our negative. It should be much simpler actually, because we don't need to worry about bonuses, and there's no negative selection, is there? So handle ability score bonuses. We'll do the similar thing. Handle ability score penalty. Penalties, race abilities low. We don't want to do any of that. There is never a bonus, it'll always be this. Set racial ability, except that it will be low, won't it? So it won't be high. Low. That should do it. Handle ability score penalty. So this will only run just by the innate property of a for loop. It won't run if this is empty. So we can safely put that there. Let's try that. Okay. Now, a halfling has negative to strength. Good. It turned red. Didn't update, but it turned red. And of course, when we change between these races, we'll want to clear colors and all the rest of it. We'll have to think of how we're going to do that. I know why it didn't change, because we haven't updated the UI, have we? So update the UI. Yeah. Reset that. So for example, we've got 13 strength plus 1, select Halfling, and we have to calculate the modifiers too. Remember, we've got to update the modifiers and UI. Luckily we've already made all these things, so calculate modifiers, so that'll be, if you look at that method, it just takes our current strength and calculates the mod for it. One more test. So we've currently got a 15 plus 2 for strength. We select Halfling, 13 plus 1. Great. But of course when we change back it's not updating, we'll need to fix that. First of all, how about let's go off and finish that for each of the abilities. Okay, I'll see you soon. Okay, there we go, that's all of them there. Let's test that. So select Halfling, for example. There we go. One thing I noticed that we haven't been updating, we're not updating the color here, so we should probably do that. The modifier total. Just here, change the modifier color. Sorry, the modifier total color. I think it's just mod total or something, is it? Mod total, yep. Equals. Now, it'll always be positive, won't it? Because if you calculate, if you do the maths, if you get two positive plus 2s and a negative 2, then you're going to be, overall, you're going to be better off. And if you're a human or an orc or whatever, and you select plus 2 in something, you'll always be better off. So it'll always be positive, actually. So color high. Okay, then so human hasn't done anything, it doesn't change, that's good because we haven't selected anything and we haven't implemented it. Halfling, woohoo, looks good. But as you can see here, it's not resetting it. So as we switch between dwarf and elf, slowly our dexterity goes up and up and up. And other things go down and down and down. Oh no, how about gnome? Gnome and elf, yes, see our strength is going down and down and down until oblivion. We'll fix that up, don't worry. But that's looking pretty good. Set racial ability. Great. Now, in order to counteract this constant addition, we need to, every time they change race, or every time they select a different modifier here, we need to reset the racial modifiers, don't we? We need to reset them. And when do we need to do that? For example, set race. Reset the racial modifiers. Let's create a method, say reset racial, well, we can call that reset racial modifiers. We'll copy that. Where else did I say? Whenever we select a new thing. So remember here, we've got this click bonus ability. Click bonus ability with an ability as a parameter. Let's go ahead and make that. Click bonus ability function. Click bonus ability with an ability in there. We wish to reset racial modifiers there, don't we? Is that all? I think so. So whenever a new race is selected, it'll reset the racial modifier and then, of course, apply the new ones, which is good. Let's go ahead and make that method. Reset racial, there's normal reset. So just in there, reset racial modifiers. What's involved in that? Well, reverse the modifier for each ability. Now, if you remember, we just added, previously we added plus equals the racial mod. Well, how about we just go minus equals strength racial. So that could be 0, so that won't do anything to strength, will it? But if we added 2 previously, well, this will reverse it. If we subtracted 2 before, well, this will be strength minus -2, which will add it back. Yeah. Dexterity. Con. Intelligence. Wisdom. Charisma. Okay, that's one thing we want to do. What's another thing we want to do? How about we reset the racial mods? What I mean by that is just the strength racial. Let's just put it back to 0. Dex con int wiz char. Good. And we need to reset the color, don't we? Reset the colors. What were we changing? Document. Get element by ID. Strength. Strength score we changed, didn't we? Dot style color. Now we just want to set it to our default color, which is, it's actually just a blank string, but oops, that's not color. That's the color I used. Yes, it's just a blank string, but that will in effect just use the default styling of the web browser. And we need to do that for the strength mod as well, don't we? And for each of the elements. Okay, go off and do that. I will too. Okay, there we go. Just remember, we also need to reset the mod total color here. I just noticed a typo here and here. Reset the racial. Yep. Looks good. And of course we need to update, we need to recalculate the modifiers, don't we? So update the modifiers, the ability modifiers this is, and the UI. So remember, we're changing our strength here, so we'll have to recalculate the modifiers and update the UI. Let's give that a go. Okay, we got not a number everywhere. If we choose half, yeah, okay. I suspect that's because we haven't initialized our these, the racial mods. So we could do that. Well, when do we see the when do we first see the race card, if you like? It's when we show race, isn't it? So we could do that. The racial modifiers will be reset when we show race, show the race form. So if visible, yeah, only if it's visible. Pop them in there. That should handle everything now. Okay, looking good so far. So just remember, we got to. I'll roll something that's a bit unique. That'll do. So we're going to modify a total of +4 here. 7, 12, 16. Now what if we choose Halfling? Yeah, that looks to be good. So the strength is going down by 2, as we want it to. Charisma is going up by 2, is that right? Yep, it's going from 12 to 14 and adding +2. And the dexterity is going up by 2, is it? Yep. And our total modifier is going up by 1, which it should do. Gnome. Yep, they've got... Seems to be working well, doesn't it? They've all got +5, which they should have, except the ones we haven't yet selected. And a gnome gets an 18 constitution. That's true. And a 14 charisma, and a negative. An elf gets plus to dexterity, minus constitution. Good, looking okay. What's missing? Well, we haven't implemented our click. We haven't implemented our click thing for humans and the like. Doesn't do anything as yet, but we can make it happen. Okay, let's go to our click method. Click ability. Click bonus ability, is it? Yep. So all that we're doing so far is resetting the racial modifiers. Well, how about we set racial ability? Yep. Set racial ability. It'll always be positive, won't it? So it'll be the ability followed by true. It'll always be positive because there's no other option. If there was another option in some future expansion, then we can come back and edit it then. I'm not going to program this to handle every situation. Let's see if that works. Okay, so humans, it's currently at +7. Now just say I'll put Constitution up. 10, great. Dexterity, yeah. What if I select between a different race? Yeah, it resets, go back to human. Good, strength +2, dex +2. Looking good. Try it for Half-orc. Let's do a different number. There's +8, that's a good roll. Add intelligence, should bring it to 19. Yep. Dexterity. What if we go to Dwarf? Yeah, it gets a penalty, plus everything else. Elf gets a penalty, and yeah, +9. +9 for everything. After we click one of these, you should get to +9 as well. Looks good. Okay, the only thing we're missing now is the bonus languages. So remember, if your intelligence is high, such as this character, you will get a number of bonus languages. So go to our set race function. That's all good. Loop through the starting languages. Now in here somewhere, because the bonus languages can update, remember we were speaking earlier about my intelligence could change, couldn't it? For example, if I select elf, suddenly I've got +4 here. So this we need to represent this somehow. How about we go set up the bonus languages section. So trait string plus equals, let's just put a span in here. So a span, remember, it's an inline element that does nothing. It won't display anything until we give it something. We'll give it an ID. We'll say just bonus langs is okay. Close the span. So that will always be there, which is fine. It's not going to do anything. So if we just test that, yeah, it doesn't do anything. It'll just sit there doing nothing. But what it does open, so we'll output all of that. Now that that span is outputted with an ID, we can do something with it. How about we make a method? So update the We'll display the bonus languages. Display the bonus languages. The reason we need to do this, because we need to allow the user to, say, use checkboxes or something. Let's call it update bonus languages, and we'll implement that. Let's go ahead and make that function. So yeah, this will be called every time. So this method will populate this span. It'll populate this span based on our current stats, so our current intelligence. Update bonus. Oh, it will be below, won't it? Update UI. Put it in here. Function update bonus languages. To do. Right, where else would we call this update bonus languages from? Well, remembering we're potentially updating our intelligence modifier, aren't we? Which happens through the update UI. So after we update the modifiers, we should also update the bonus languages. If we didn't do that, then it wouldn't be representative of our new intelligence score, which could happen, like elves, for example, have higher intelligence. Okie dokie. Now what goes into this method? Well, first of all, we should probably create an array, shouldn't we? Let's make a global variable. Bonus langs, so it's an array, because later when, for example, if we're printing the character sheet or doing some sort of display of it or saving of it, we'll need to know the bonus languages, won't we? Probably a string is enough, so we'll just put them as strings, the name of them. Okay, so update bonus languages. So first of all, how about we clear that array? Clear the language array. Or initialize it, potentially. What else? Well, probably the next step is to create the UI element that the user is going to click. Because they can click multiple, probably the best widget to use would be a checkbox. So create a group of checkboxes so that the player can select bonus languages. Alright, so in a similar way that we had a trait string, how about we just call this a language string? Just an empty string. And we'll want to loop through everything, won't we? All the languages in the race. I equals 0, I is less than race, because race, remember, is a global variable. Race languages, is it? Yeah, languages, bonus languages dot length. Yes, I'm pretty certain, yes, all races have bonus languages they can choose from. Okay. And what do we want to do? Well, we want to output create a group of checkboxes so that the player can select bonus languages. First of all, we want to put the title here, don't we? So language string plus equals, I mean, we could have put this here, I guess, but let's just do this. Strong. So it'll be in a similar way that we've made all our other headings, as in these headings. strong plus language title, title bonus. So that'll be bonus languages. Yep, bonus languages. Probably in brackets, we'd like to put how many they have. Although we know that it's equal to their modifier, it'd be nice to be explicit about it, to list it explicitly. So we'll put a bracket, a parenthesis, and how many do they have? Well, it's equal to their int mod, isn't it? Actually, this will only happen, won't it, if the int mod is... This will only happen if the int mod is greater than 0, won't it? If int mod is greater than 0, because anything less than 0 you don't get languages. You don't get bonus languages, I should say. Then we can do all this. Yep. So language string will be language title bonus plus a bracket. The int modifier will be the total number of languages they can know, extra languages. Closing bracket. And then the colon. Follow our same pattern that we did before. Close that. Good. Now what are we displaying? So that'll just be the title. Now for each one of them, we want to display their name, don't we? No, we don't. Yes, we want a checkbox and their name. So how about we put an input? Sorry, language string plus equals an input. Now it will have a type equal to check box. Hang on, type equal to check box, right? It'll have, let's give it a name so we can call them when we need to. The name will equal how about the name? We'll create a name field here. Name will equal the race language bonus, the ith one, its name. Okay, so name will equal plus name plus closing the quotes, and it'll have an onClick method, won't it? OnClick. So when we click it, we want to test for things. OnClick brackets OnClick. What could we call it? Click bonus language. Oh, it's going to be a JavaScript, isn't it? JavaScript. Click bonus language. We'll need to pass something there. We'll think about that soon. Is that all we need for our checkbox? I think so. Oh, actually, we need the name of the thing that we're clicking, don't we? Like the actual label. So that's just, we can just put plain, we'll close that input, and then we'll put the race. What are we going to put? The name of the name, won't we? Plus name. And we'll probably need a, oh no, that's all. I think that'll be fine. Now what are we going to put in here? Well, we need to pass the name as well, don't we? Yeah, because when we click the bonus language, we'll pass a string which we want to add to something. So to escape a quote inside HTML, we can't do that because that's for JavaScript. So we'll need to use this method I think it's just quote. I think that's right. Okay, the opening quote, and then we'll need to in the middle of those quotes we'll need to put the name followed by a closing quote. So at this thing again, not at, and or ampersand. Yes, that looks okay. So we should have a value here. We should have a value name. Let's change that to value. That's probably the name is how we reference this checkbox. The value is its actual value. So the name will be the same for all checkboxes. So let's set that to just bonus lang. That should be okay. Good. Now we should we've created this string, we need to output it, don't we? So get the element and set the string. So what is the element? We'll call it lang element will equal document. The reason I'm making this into a variable is so that we can check if it's null or not, because this update bonus language it won't always come back with something. Anyway, document get element by ID bonus langs, I believe it is. Yeah. So remember that was just a span, I believe. Somewhere we can dump this text. And we'll set its inner HTML equal to the language string. Great. Oh, sorry. Let me grab all that. We're just getting the element here. Now we can test if it's null. If language element equals, how about doesn't equal null, then we can set this it doesn't hurt to check for null anyway, even if we didn't need that, but I believe because we're calling this from our update UI, this will be called sometimes when this isn't true. Okay, shall we see what that does? Race is undefined, 1144. Race is undefined. Oh yeah, of course. Race at the start of the character generation, race hasn't been selected, has it? So that just means race, it's potentially at the start of character generation, race is null. So let's just make sure that it isn't null when we run all this. It doesn't equal null. Simple fix, should fix it up. Okie dokie. Looking okay. Remembering humans have a ton of bonus options. Let's try something like a half-orc. Remembering our intelligence is +2 here. So we should have 2 bonus languages. Yep. Abyssal, Draconic, Giant. We haven't programmed this yet. We'll get to that later. But the number is correct, bonus languages 2. Let's try re-rolling that. So there should be 0 bonus languages, shouldn't there? Undefined. We don't want to show that, do we? Undefined. That's 3 bonus languages. -1. Yeah, okay, let's get rid of that undefined. I think it's probably just because, yeah, we're running this outside of this. We only want to do anything with languages if this condition is met. If it's not, then we're not doing anything. So if the int mod is less than is 0 or less, then we don't want to do anything here. Let's try that. Okay, language is common with a low int. They should be all the same. Yep, no bonus languages, I mean. Let's change to intelligence 14, so that's +2. There should be 2 bonus languages. Yep, 2 here. 2. Now what if we go to something that gives increased intelligence, for example a elf? +3. Yep, that's reflected here. Human is 2, but what if we select intelligence? 3. So that's because we're running that in our update UI. If we turn off that, so if we say select wisdom instead, yep, it goes back to 2, constitution 2, intelligence 3. Okay, so that's all working okay. All we need to do now is implement this somehow. So prevent the user from clicking more than this number. Okay, we need to implement this method. Click bonus language and it passes the name, so the string of the language. Click bonus, where can we put this? Is just after click bonus ability. Click bonus language. It takes the language string, language name. Now we need to grab the checkboxes. So we call them language CBs, language checkboxes. We can use the method get elements by name, because if you remember, we gave them all the same. Was it bonus lang, I believe? Bonus lang, get elements by name, bonus lang. Now they'll all be checkboxes. And we need to count how many are selected. We need to know the total. So loop through and find the total number selected, because we don't want to go over our maximum, do we? So for example, if they had +3 to intelligence, we'd only allow them to click 3 of those boxes. So a for loop is ideal. Hang on, let's put a variable first. Variable total selected. Well, it's going to equal 0, isn't it, for the time being. For so it's the race. No, it's not. It's a language CBs, isn't it? Language CBs length. Okay, now how do we know if they've been checked or not? Well, we can just go if lang CBs I, so the current one, if it's checked, then we're going to increment our total selected. Okay. Next, Now we don't want to allow them to click more than their int bonus, do we? So don't allow more languages than int mod. Right? So for int, no, var I equals 0, I is less than lang cbs dot length I plus plus. So this is going to be exactly the same sort of loop we're doing here, except the reason we're separating this is because I wanted to grab a count of how many are checked first, so that we know in this loop what if we've gone over that count. Sorry. Yes, if we've gone over our limit, the int mod. It's actually the int bonus, isn't it? Okay. Now, if lang cbs checked, so only if it's checked are we interested in this. If lang cbs is checked, well, there's a lot of conditions here, aren't there? So if the total selected is greater than the int mod, right? That's our limit. Then we've gone over, haven't we? But what do we have to do? We want to deselect the current language. Okay, so deselect the current language. So we have to know that it's which one to deselect, don't we? And that's why we pass this, the language name. So the total selected is greater than int mod, and the current value equals the language name. So it'll only deselect the most recently clicked one. We don't want it deselecting all of them, do we? If you go 1, 2, 3, just say you went Common, Dwarven, Elven, and then the fourth one that's over, you selected whatever it is, Hobgoblin or something, you want that one to disappear, don't you? You don't want all of them to clear. So only in this situation we'll deselect. So how do we do that? Well, we just go this dot checked equals false. So to the user, when they click it, it just won't click. They'll click it, it'll immediately uncheck. So it will never check, in other words. Now, what's the alternative? Deselect the current language. Otherwise, add the selection to the array. So else, now we've got this array called bonus langs, don't we? Now you can just push is the thinking we'll need to clear this first. So clear the array, or initialize the array as well, because what we'll be doing is selecting all, adding all of the languages. Each time they click a bonus language, we'll repopulate this array. Bonus langs equals that. Bonus, okay, push, we can push the new value, which is add the selection. So it'll just be this value. Right. Don't allow more languages than int bonus. Shall we try it? Okay, we don't have a intelligence bonus, but we can get one here. There we go, that's coming up okay. Okay, syntax error missing parenthesis after argument list. Okay, that probably means we're calling our function incorrectly. This one here. Oh, yep. So we should have a quote, followed by the name, followed by a quote, followed by a parenthesis. We should probably throw in a semicolon there too. Okay, we don't have an intelligence bonus, that's alright. Give ourselves one. Yeah. Now see when I'm trying to click Aquin, nothing happens. However, if I unclick Aclo, I can now click it. So it seems to be working. Let's try to get a higher intelligence. There we go, 16 plus 3. And we'll select, say, elf, which gives it, so we've got 3 at the moment. If we go elf, they're intelligent. Yeah, we should have 4. Great. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, the 5th one's not working. Now, what if I select just to do a bit of testing, what if I selected a different race at this point? Half elf. It resets all that. 1, 2, 3. Good. Hit intelligence, so I've selected 3. And I hit intelligence, say. Yeah, it clears it, which is fine. I think that's fine. Because if you're changing your bonus languages, we should... I mean, you could program it so if you go up, you could keep the original 3, but it's not that important a feature. Because if you went down in, for example, you had 4 selected, and then I said, oh, hang on, I don't want intelligence, I hit wisdom, then how do you decide which ones to keep? So it's best just to clear it. I mean, they should be selecting this first, honestly. Okay, so 18 intelligence, 1, 2, 3, 4. Can't select the 5th one. What if we change methods? Yeah, to make sure everything's going okay. Looks okay. No bonus languages. Now we have a bonus language. Good. Now we probably want to show something, you know, to say that this section race is complete, just as we did when we finished our rolling. We wanted to show race up here. How about after we've completed everything we need to in race, we just show a class form? Okay. Just clear some of this up. So let's go down to your HTML, and just as we've got a race form here, let's create a class form. Remembering that classes, where are we? Step 2 is pick your class with all the ability scores and bonus languages and that. Race, I should say. And step 3 is pick your class. That's where I'm getting it from. Stick with our formatting. Class form. Yeah, it's not displayed. Legend, class, let's have nothing in it to begin with, except choose your class. Just something to show us that it's working. When could we potentially see this form? Well, for example, if we rolled something like a Gnome, just say we had no intelligence modifier, and we selected Gnome. Everything's been selected, hasn't it? There's nothing more that we need to do. So then we should be able to see it. What if we had an intelligence modifier? There we go. We've got 1 bonus language in this case. We select Charisma. After selecting that 1 bonus language, we'd expect to see the next form, wouldn't we? So it could be from that. Or, isn't it also possible they select this first for whatever reason. Oh yeah, I'll choose a whistle. Oh, hang on, I better choose this. That's possible too. So when they click that, they should be able to see it too. So we'll have to do some... Hang on, let me just see if that works. They should be allowed to see that. Ah, I see. We're resetting that bonus languages when they select anything here. Maybe we should only reset that if intelligence is selected. Anyway, that's no biggie. I'm not going to worry about that, honestly. But the point is that it could be this that activates the next form, or it could be this, or it could be this. Yeah. Okay. So knowing that, let's make a class. So it's similar to how we got show race here. How about we make a function, because let's give it all the logic it needs. Let's put all the conditions in this function. Show class if needed. Show class if needed. So we don't have to worry about setting visibility. It'll just know. It'll do it all within here. Okay, so the first thing, what's the conditions? Well, all the bonus needs to be selected. Check that the bonus ability has been selected. Remembering this is only for some races, so how about we make a variable, boolean called bonus OK. Now let's initialize it, because sometimes, as I said, it won't be for all races, will it? So bonus is OK when get elements by name. So remember, there'll be those radio buttons. Bonus ability, I think bonus ability. Actually, let's we should put that into its own variable. Bonus ability radio buttons, aren't they? Bonus ability radio buttons. And bonus OK when bonus ability radio buttons length equals 0. So that means it's a race that doesn't even show that. It's not even on the screen. So if that comes back empty, hang on. Get elements by name. Yep. So if that comes back empty, bonus, it's okay to move on. But we need to loop through it all the same. Oops. So looping through all those bonus abilities, so there'll be 6 of them, right? Or 0, potentially, which won't hurt us. So if there's 6 of them, what do we need to check for? Well, we just need to make sure that one of them is checked, don't we? So if that is checked, then we're all good, aren't we? Bonus OK equals true. And we don't need to check anything else, so we can just break out of it if you want. So check that the bonus ability has been selected. I think that'll handle all that. And what else do we need to make sure? Well, we need to check that all bonus languages have been selected. Create a variable. This is, we've got bonus OK. Let's go lang OK. And what does that equal? Well, it's okay if the int mod is less than or equal to 0, right? Because they don't have to select any. Or it's okay if the bonus langs, so that's the list of languages, dot length equals the int mod, right? Now this could be potentially null, couldn't it? Because we'll be calling this, where will we be calling that? Let's try to find, okay, so it could happen in set race, couldn't it? Not set racial ability, this is our set race here. So set race, remember if we hit Gnome, they might not have any ability bonuses, so we need to check. Display the bonus languages. Show the next form. If show the, how about we say, show the class form if required. Okay. Where else? Where else do we have show? Show race, we'll have a look. No. Hide other forms, we will do it there. Show class if, yep, because we want to hide stuff on a reset. Show the race form, that's fine. When we finish the clicking the bonus languages, it could happen, couldn't it? Click bonus languages, clear the array, don't allow more languages than int bonus. So yeah, they could have clicked the final one here. Show the class form if required. And we also said that potentially could happen on clicking the ability, didn't we? Click bonus ability. So if they had already populated their bonus languages, and then they click that ability, potentially. I think that should be enough. Let's try it. Actually, let's go back to this. So check that all bonus languages have been selected. So the int mod is less than or equal to 0, or the bonus language length equals the int mod. Now, because this is being called from various locations, we have to make sure that this is not null, which it could be at the start of the character gen. Doesn't equal null, and because this is what do they call it? Short-circuiting. If you heard that term, it means it'll run this first when doing logical statements like this, and if that is false, it won't bother checking that. So this is a safe way to do this. If we didn't have this and that was null, this would throw an error. So this is a safe way to do that. Now we need to what do we need to do there? So show class if needed. Well, we need to show the class form. Document get element by ID class form. Now remember, it's the display style.display will equal. Now this will all depend on these two booleans, won't they? So if bonus okay and lang okay, in that situation we want to show it, don't we? Otherwise we want to not display it. Now we can try it. Not a good start. We can see it immediately, can't we? Choose your class. Int mod is less than or equal to 0. It shouldn't be. Maybe because I see. Probably because JavaScript int mod at the start is just an empty string. But an empty string I think equates to 0. So we need to check the type of int mod. So int mod is definitely an empty string. it has to equal the type of, well, as we're comparing it to 0, we can put a 0 there. So a 0 is a number, in effect. So type of int mod's a string, that's a number at the start. So we need to throw in that condition. Type of, yep. And so once that's, when they're the same, if they're the same, then we can run this logic. Yep, so it can, let's try that. Looking better. Standard, human. Now if we select anything here, that should show us the class form. Yep, there it is. If we select an intelligence modifier, actually let's roll till we get a 0. Here we go. So human can't do anything until we hit here, for example. But when we hit this, a bonus language should appear, shouldn't it? Yep, it hasn't showed the class form yet. Let's select the language, Goblin. There we go. If we deselect that, it's not there. Aquan, great. What if we select another Constitution? Okay, something went wrong there, didn't it? +7. That's all good, except that it's showing class. I see, it's not hiding this form. It's not hiding bonus languages. We'll have to fix that up. Update bonus languages. That's probably where it's going wrong, I suspect. Update bonus language. I see what's happening. We should pull this, because this could, we want this to hide the bonus languages too, don't we? So let's pull this variable out. Put it here, so it's an empty string, and then we can pull this out. I know we put it in there before, but the only thing it was complaining about before was that this wasn't initialized. This language string wasn't initialized, or sorry, it was displaying undefined, wasn't it? So that's all we have to do to fix it up. Hopefully that'll cure everything. Okay, yeah, now we got a good situation here. Intelligence 10, so 0. Let's select intelligence. Yep, we got that. Select the language, say undercommon. Great. If we deselect that, disappears. Yep. How about we change this? That is correct, because there's nothing for us to choose because our intelligence. Let's try higher intelligence. +1. That doesn't do anything. If we select intelligence, it clears that. That's fine. 2, that shows it. Now if we change to constitution, no. Yeah, it's all looks to be working well. Elf with more intelligence requires 2 of these to be selected. Good. Now what if we do something up here like roll again? What happens? It's not there. Good. Roll again. Let's get... Yep, so I selected Gnome, who's got no bonus languages. It immediately shows that. What if we choose a different method, say classic? Yeah, everything disappears. I think it is working. Good, and we can't select more than our allotment. Yeah, it just hides it when we remove them. Looking good. I mean, it probably needs more testing, but at least superficially it seems to be working quite well. Okay, and that's where we'll stop today. Great, thanks a lot.